There's a ghost in Turin, not the spooky kind, something a bit heavier. A legacy that was never meant to end, but did, all at once, in a foggy hillside in 1949. And now one of Italy's most historic clubs is asking us for help. Not to win games, not to finish in the top half, but to bring back Il Grande Torino. 3 seasons, 1 identity, a resurrection story. But why Torino? Well, I think they're one of the absolute most interesting teams in the world. Torino are one of the oldest teams in Italy and were the dominant force either side of World War II. They were the first team to do the Cup and League double in Italy, but this isn't as interesting as the 5 consecutive titles they won in the 1940s. In 1947, every national team outfielder on the pitch at one time played for Torino, with a goalkeeper from Juventus. They refused to play catenaccio, instead playing fast-flowing, high-press football well before that was popular. Their dominance ended in horrific circumstances in 1949. A plane that was carrying the club's entire first team, reserves and coaching staff crashed while approaching Turin. The club never really recovered. They would win one more title in the 1970s, but since 2013, they've never finished higher than 7th, never reached a quarter-final, and never finished lower than 16th. So the history lesson is now over. We're going to be managing Torino as realistically as we can, and over the next 3 episodes, take a mid-table team, give them an identity, and try to bring back the era of Il Grande Torino. We'll be trying to build a defensively strong side with believable transfers, we'll let our best players go if bids make sense, and we'll be playing with in-game events on high. So let's create our identity. There are 2 things that I want our tactic to do. I want to build something where our wingbacks are both the creators and finishers of goals. That means that they have the freedom to move inside when we have possession, to get ahead of our midfielders and maybe even get ahead of our strikers, and that's going to take a very specific set of skills. But I think Biraghi is good enough for us to try it. I also want to keep the direct style of play, using a target man to bring others into the action. The ideal situation would be if they got more assists than goals, so finishing and pace don't really matter that much to us in this save. That means we can bring in a lower rated player who's cheaper and basically moneyball an improvement based on what we need. So after all of that, this is the tactic that we've created. The idea of this save is to try and build Torino up over 3 seasons and try and get a title in year 3. That gives us time to use our academy too, so while I set up the scouting, let's talk about some of the players that we want to find. First of all, after that crash in 1949, Torino went into a serious period of rebuilding. In a spooky coincidence, their biggest talent was called Luigi Moroni, which is the same name as the pilot in the plane crash. He was often compared to George Best. A more modern comparison is probably Jack Grealish. He had low socks, he was really good ball control, and could also take a set piece pretty well. And that's basically what we're looking for in Italy with our first scout, a technically gifted playmaking left winger. In our second slot, we're going to Croatia to try and find another Ezio Loik. This guy was born in Croatia but played for the Italian national team, and he was just an energetic and versatile mezzala. He was one of the players that sadly died in the crash, so his career was cut short before he could become a household name that you probably would have known. In short, we're basically looking for a high stamina, high ball control centre mid that can drift out and play as a half winger. Finally, we're going a bit more recent with our final slot. Bremer was a Torino linchpin for years before he moved across the city to Juventus. Our tactic's going to need 2 quick ball playing centre backs, so why not look for one of them in Brazil? I'll keep you updated as we go through the season, but now that's sorted, we need to start playing games. Because we're starting with live start points, that means our 4-1-4-1 is going to get tested straight away. We've got 6 games before the January transfer window, and 5 of them are very winnable. The other game is against AC Milan, which is a bit tougher, so let's just see what we can do. So, Como, a team that really like to keep the ball, even if they're not too threatening going forwards. I'm really interested to see if Biraghi can get involved even though he doesn't have the inverted wingback role. He actually kinda does get involved, even as part of a move where we do put the ball in the net, but sadly, the flag went up. The rest of the game was alright, but it was more of a chess match than a football one. We somehow ended up not having a single shot, Como only had 2 themselves, so it's probably better if we just quickly move on and play the game against Lecce. Thankfully, Lecce are not such big fans of possession. In the driving rain, we can keep the ball pretty well, and our new identity seems to work really nicely when we're the better team. Cesare Casadei is probably the most important player in our project. We're basically surrendering the entire midfield to try and overload the wings, so by having him drop a little bit deeper, it helps us reduce that risk by quite a lot. But still, The first half is over, and there's still no goals. We didn't make any changes for the second half, but things did start to slowly click. Our attacking wingback would overlap, chip a nice ball towards our target man who turned the right way with a low driven finish, and that was exactly what we wanted to see from that side of the pitch. From the same right side, just a few minutes later, we had another chance. This time our right midfielder inverted and smashed one just a few inches wide. And that was it. Another clean sheet, and our attack was starting to work. We're obviously not on the same level as Il Grande yet, but we're on the right path. The stats don't look too impressive, but we're dominating both the flanks, and we're also dominating the ball, and there was no threat at all from Lecce. Our next match was the real test though, Milano FC, or as you probably know them, AC Milan. This is going to be the last game we're going to play before the January transfer window, so let's keep an extra sharp eye out for who's going to need improving. I think we're going to give Tamezi a go as a half winger, because I think he might also sell for a bit either in January or in the summer, so this is really his audition to try and stay. Again, Zapata, Pedersen and Casadei are all playing really well, but Tamezi doesn't really have a great match. Tamezi goes for 6 tackles and doesn't win a single one. A hard-working half winger is definitely on our list for January, as well as possibly a younger target man. If we can get those two, I think we'll probably be able to finish in the top half this season. But 0-0 against AC Milan isn't too bad, and that's just 6 shots across 3 games. Let's work on some transfers, and as always, to keep it realistic, we're only allowed a squad of 25 players and 2 of them as non-EU signings. This is what our squad looks like at the moment. We don't actually have a single player who counts as non-EU, despite a bunch of our players not being from the EU. Also, we're going to transfer this to Tamezi and possibly Ng, but other than that, it's a total clean slate for Torino. If we don't sign anyone else, we need to improve our half winger, and our scouts have actually given us loads of options for this position. I'm going to try and avoid scouting multiple players so we know who is the best option, but we narrowed the 50 options down to just 2 possible signings. The first one is Musab Al-Juwair. I don't know how good he is, but he can play half winger, but he did also only sign for Al-Qadsiya last summer. The other option might be more controversial, but hear me out, Fabio Moretti. He's fallen quite a long way since he was one of football's biggest wonderkids. Injuries have hit him quite hard, and Juventus have financial fair play troubles, combined with 0 appearances this season. I think we do stand a chance of getting him on the cheap. We ask our director of football to put bids in for both, and he'll get back to us with how much they cost. A couple of days later, it turns out we undervalued the Saudi midfielder, but Moretti's bid was accepted. We don't want to break our wage budget to sign a player from our rivals, so we check what we're paying everyone else, and I think somewhere between 30 and 35,000 is fair enough, so we send that offer. But it turns out that isn't enough for him to betray his boyhood club. I guess we never wanted him anyway, the traitor. So, back to the Metzhala hunt we go. There are a couple of freshly scouted options. One of them is Andy Diouf, who seems quite good. His dribbling and pace are pretty amazing for a centre mid. Also, Andrea Colpani from 2nd Division Monza is very interested. So we submit another set of bids, and hopefully we can at least get one of these guys. Another few days passed. Diouf's bid falls through, but Colpani's doesn't. With his tiny wage in mind, we offer him a massive pay rise, and despite the fact that he'll need retraining, I'm actually quite eager to get this guy over the line. On the day of the Hellas Verona game, he accepts. He's all ours, and he'll be a big piece of the puzzle sorted. But would he be starting on his first day of the club? Of course not. He needs time to learn our tactic, and our team's actually currently on fire. Going into this match, we have won 4 games in a row, but could we carry it on against Hellas Verona? Well, the usual players, as you'd expect, were playing well against Verona. Casadei was shutting down attacks, Israel was comfortable in goal, and Zapata was forcing some good saves from their keeper. One of those saves, right here, came just before half-time. From the resulting corner, we whipped it near post, and Maripan, one of the people we were actually thinking about replacing, would connect perfectly. The perfect time to score is just before half-time, and one kickoff later, the whistle blew. The second half started with more proof that our tactic could really work. Zapata held it up, and our wingback was nearly the finisher that we wanted him to be. We were tactically on fire. We even had time for a Colpani debut. He didn't really get a lot of time on the pitch, but the bits that we did see were quite encouraging. His dribbling felt quite tight, which is definitely better than you could say for Anjorin. Our 5 wins in a row have moved us all the way up to 6th place. But there is some big bad news. Zapata has agreed to go to United on a free. To be honest, we weren't ever going to re-sign him, and we can replace him, but we don't need to for 6 months, so we're going to leave that for next summer anyway. He already struggles to play more than one game a week, so Simeone and Adams are getting plenty of minutes, including in our next game against Bergamo FC, also known as Atalanta. They're arguably better than AC Milan, and in a very similar position to us in the league. So this is basically the game that will decide if we're fighting for Europe, fighting for the top half, or if this was a false position we found ourselves in. This is the first time we've played against a false 9 with this tactic. That's awful for how we defend. Casadei drops into centre back, but that means there's a huge space for someone to get on the ball, turn, run into the box, and put us behind. We don't score too many goals, we already know that, so that is a really bad start. But look at this move. This is exactly what we wanted to see. A ball moved into the target man, the inverted wingback getting ahead of him, a beautiful pass through, and an equaliser. When it clicks, it just looks so good. And of course, we don't only play to this one strategy. We actually go ahead after countering from a corner. We'll take any kind of goal. Annoyingly, Atalanta would strike twice in the second half and our winning run would end after 5 matches. It's a little bit of a shame, but for now I think the best teams in this league are just too good for us to compete with. We actually do pretty well in the league, and I'll show you the final table at the end of the episode. But for the rest of this video, we're forgetting about it. We're going to focus entirely on the Italian Cup, which of course can also be a route into Europe. Why not see if we can get a 6th Coppa Italia to go into the trophy cabinet? The competition is what we've actually built our style to be good in. If we can nick a goal, we can keep the ball, and we can win 1-0. At least that's the plan. But it doesn't get much harder to test a plan than an away day in Rome. Sula, Dybala and Mateta up front is very dangerous. But other than that, I don't think our squads are actually too different. We do need to rotate quite badly, and it turns out that our backups aren't great. For example, this is the first time I've used Che Adams ever, but if he's good, there's a chance that we already have our Zapata replacement. Rain isn't what we wanted to see when we got into the stadium. Possession is going to be harder for us to keep, our already low stamina is going to drop faster, but hopefully the identity can shine through. We try our best anyway, but we have to play more on the counter than normal for sure. Lazaro, playing on the other wing to usual, wins the ball, and Casadei shifts it forward to Adams. His flick over for Angerin isn't the best, but Ndicka dives in and somehow the ref gives the penalty. Even on the replay, I'm quite convinced that Ndicka actually wins the ball, but Adams is the man to step up and take the penalty and smashes it in the top left. That was hit so damn hard, but now it's about holding on. We've got that 1-0 lead we wanted, and Roma start to push forwards. We actually make it into half-time ahead, and decide to switch our half-winger for a box-to-box, in the hope that they'll drop a little bit further back than Tino usually does. Sometimes these changes work well, we get this shot off, and sometimes they don't, they run into each other. We just have to prevent any mistakes. If we make one, it could be level, but we just don't make any. No matter how hard Rome come at us, Casadei is there, Pedersen is there, or Maripan gets his head on it. At least until Kone threads the perfect pass through to Sula. One touch, inside, top corner. And that's just how good this Roma team is. We're not going to panic though. This is our 10th game playing the same system, so we know how it works by now. We just need one chance and we're through to the next round. But Roma are relentless. Angelino, Dybala, and then Coco intercepts. This is it, we can definitely counter here. Aslani carries it into the midfield. The initial ball isn't great, but the second chance it works. Adams is through, and again, a low driven, 2-1. It is scenes in the stands. I love this passion, this is what Calcio is all about. Torino are too big to call themselves minnows, but this is definitely an upset. To take Roma on at the Stadio Olimpico is proof that we're getting closer to what we want to become. We hold on for the final 5 minutes, and our reward is a spot in the final 8 teams. We do spend a bit of time looking around some Serie A squads to see if they have any unwanted squad players, but actually decide it's probably better to keep our money for July. We're going to spend big in the summer, but before then, we're playing another member of the 7 Sisters of Italian football, Fiorentina. Fiorentina are all about getting it to Goossens on the wing and whipping it at Edin Dzeko's head. We did consider swapping our centre-backs to try and counter this threat, but I think the ones we've got should probably be able to stop it. Che Adams is going to get another game up front, so let's see if we can reach the semi-finals. The ideal situation is we dominate the ball, score quite late, and then hold on for a win. An early goal would be good, but that risks us dropping too deep like we did against Roma. Well, Colpani gets an early goal, and within 10 minutes, we're ahead. But not only that, we don't drop deep. We keep staying dangerous. Every time we attack, it looks like we can score. And this is how elite teams like to play. There's no need for subs at half time. If we keep this up, we might get a second or a third. And as we expected, Fiorentina do come out firing at half time, but after their momentum fades, it's back to being all Torino. I love when I notice that our wingbacks have realised we're in a back three. Pedersen then sprints forward. Vlasic doesn't find him this time, but Ilicic plays a beauty to Adams. Adams flicks it round the corner, 2 touches, and that is the goal we want. Target man to wingback, defensive midfielder dropping to centre back to let him move forward, right winger cutting inside to play the pass. If any goal sums up what we want to do, it is that one. We spent the rest of the game just controlling Fiorentina defensively. If they want to push forwards, we just push them out wide. They claim that's where they're the most dangerous, but they really don't seem like they are. That is great stuff from Dodo, and that was it. We go down the other end, try an ambitious finesse shot, and that ends the game. We're in the semi-finals, and alongside us are Lazio, Napoli, and Juventus. That game is going to take place in March, but before we can even find out who we're playing, we get some brilliant news. I think we might have found our Luigi Moroni. He goes by the name of Piero Costa. We think we can get him ready for the first team by the end of the season, but he's definitely someone to watch. With that sorted, it's time to return to Rome, this time to play against Latium. Of course, these guys are just Lazio. They're another one of the traditional Big 7 clubs of Italian football, and we're really happy to draw them. I'm sure they're happier to draw us though. They play a possession 4-3-3, so I'm really hoping that Castellanos is not a false 9. If he is, we might have to make some early changes. We go with the strongest possible team for this one. Adams is back on the bench, and we're back at the Stadio Olimpico for a second time, but this time facing a slightly weaker team from Rome. The atmosphere is still deafening, but we're mentally stronger. We know our game plan: score once, hold on, control the ball, control the opposition. The rain makes it feel a bit more hostile than it really is, but I think we can handle it. It's a pretty uninspiring first half, to be honest. The weather just gets the best of both teams. When the ball moves this slow, it's hard to be positive in possession. It's 0-0 at half time. Would things change in the second half? They actually kinda did. There were suddenly a few chances appearing. Lazio had a big one early on, and then we would get one of our own thanks to Lazaro. The low-driven shot probably ended up getting stuck in a puddle though. Pedersen and Casadei were playing outstandingly as usual, but it just wasn't enough. 90 minutes gone, 0-0. There is of course no extra time in the Coppa Italia, so this is going to a replay in Turin. 6 weeks pass, and it's time for that replay. Lazio would be making the 500-kilometer trip north to Turin, and we decide to bring Adams back into the first team. He got us to the semi-final, so let's see if he's the man to get us into the final. If we get there, it's already confirmed we'll be playing against Juventus. I don't think there could be a bigger reward for winning this game. However, we have one big obstacle in our way. He's called Matteo Guendouzi. If we play patiently, we've noticed he can press 3 men at once. If we try and rush past him, he just sticks a leg out and steals the ball. Out of everyone we've faced this season, he's by far the most influential player. If only we had someone like him in our team. It turns out Lazio also have very fast fullbacks, so there's no obvious way through. Maybe going long would work, but Adams isn't very tall. They're threatening us, and for the first time, we're showing we might not be able to handle a team. But while we can't break them down, they're also really struggling to break us down too, so it's no surprise that after 180 long minutes, the game goes to extra time. We're going to have to make some changes. Zapata might be able to make the difference. I mean, at least he's better if it goes to penalties. We keep pushing, trying to get that goal. Illich would play in Genetis, but Sells doesn't spill it to Zapata. That's the kind of thing we need to happen if we're going to win this game. There's barely any time left now. Guendouzi is still shutting us down in the middle. But can we do something from this throw? Well, Lazaro finds Genetis, and what a touch that is. He can run into the box unopposed. He can pull it back, and Zapata is there. He turns, and it's a goal. How many late goals have we scored in this cup run? Out of absolutely nowhere, the substitution pays off. There's almost no time for Lazio to equalise, and that is a totally unexpected run into the final in the bag. The squad doesn't even seem that hyped walking off the pitch, but knowing it's Juventus in the final makes winning the replay even sweeter. We know our identity works, and even if we lose this final, this season has been so much better than we were expecting. The final's in 3 weeks' time, so we have time to rest our players in the league, knowing that we want them to be fit for that game. So, the Coppa Italia final. The last time Torino made the final was 1993. They won it. The last time Juventus faced Torino in a final was 1938. Juventus won. The omens are mixed, but we know what we need to do. Get a goal, hold on, and just hope. Juventus play a high pressing style that is not going to be easy to play through. They're going to have 4 or 5 Guendouzi's, and we might need to counterattack a little bit more than normal. Relying on our wings is going to be important too. We're not actually going to make any changes. That means Che Adam is going to be starting the game up front, and we just need to hope that we don't go behind. If we do, it's probably game over. I didn't think we had a chance against Roma, Fiorentina or Lazio before this game, and I really don't think this game is going to end well. They're so strong, they're so fast and so technical that we can't even get near the ball for the opening 10 minutes. We're already having to hold on. We have to defend with 9 players, or we might as well just forfeit the game. The long ball option isn't working either, but with their 3 defender formation, I think we can probably exploit the wings, and it nearly works for Vlasic on the right. But they keep coming, wave after wave, but somehow every time we're just getting lucky enough to keep them out. They're focusing down our left with Conceição, and eventually, in the second half, he would turn, and he would find the top corner. We're going to have to attack if we want to get back into this tie, and things really could get quite bad. In a rare piece of possession, we move the ball from the left wing to the right, where Vlasic has already inverted. That's where we want him. He rolls his man, gets 1-on-1, and that's the equaliser. What a damn goal. We're totally back in this game. Time ticks by. We keep trying and trying, but nothing is good enough. We're level after 90 minutes, and yet again, heading to extra time. Juventus have decided to start attacking again in extra time, and it's actually Casadei who stops what looked to be one of the best passes of the entire tournament. But we can't quite convert the counter-attack, but we're still in this match. The first 15 minutes are nearly done, but we get the ball out to Lazaro, ball goes to Colpani, and then to Zapata, who floats one miles out to the right. There's so much space out here for Ngonge. He takes advantage of it. He turns the unagile Gatti. Then he whips one back post and oh my god, Colpani was there. The signing we didn't really even want to make puts us ahead in the final. Sure, his knee slide isn't great, but the jump to win that header was unreal, beating their keeper Di Gregorio. Hold on, hold on, hold on. That's just what I'm repeating to myself while we play the rest of extra time. But straight from kickoff, things feel a little bit easier. It feels like they've stopped pressing us, and we can take all the time on the ball that we want. We cycle the ball around a little bit, and eventually goes out to Biraghi. He cuts back from his centre-back, another cross, and the same result, Ngonge somehow getting in front of McKennie, and Torino are surely going to be champions now. There isn't a 4th goal, but Juventus haven't given up. In the final minute of the game, they score to make it 3-2, but they're so convinced they've already lost, they don't even pick the ball up for a quick restart. There was no point anyway, because the referee confirms it, and out of absolutely nowhere, Torino are the Coppa Italia champions. I actually can't believe it myself. Every game, we seem to get so lucky. There were late goals, there were replays, we avoided penalty shootouts by just a few seconds multiple times, and that luck has seen Torino win a 6th Italian Cup. We lift it, and that is season 1 over. Like I said back in January, we do okay in the league, nothing special. 10th place, just 7 goals away from the top half. But next season is going to be massive. We'll be playing European football and having to rebuild most of our squad at the same time. I hope I'll see you there, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Together, we can make Torino a little bit more grande. And thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.